Hey guys, welcome to Frank's Tech Help. Today we're going to be testing out a little modification that one of my viewers came across, Scott H. from New York. We've been collaborating on the Dune Thunder 12891 modifications for a little while now, and if you've seen my previous videos, you'll notice that I've done previous videos on upgrading the rear axles, the front axles, and I've also changed out the entire electronics to do a Cool RC 4500 kV brushless motor and a 2.8 kg Feu servo. And so if you want to see that modification as far as the upgrade and everything, you can go to my channel and check out the previous videos. But this video is something that Scott came across completely by accident. He had received one of these units, and the solder point, let me zoom in here, right here on the motor, you have the negative connector, the positive connector, and there's a PCB board in here. And right here where you see that little diode, or whatever the component is, there was a chunk of solder on it. It was like a manufacturing defect. So he came up with the idea, well, he was driving his and it started blowing smoke all over the place and like it was about to catch on fire or whatever. Turns out he cleaned out the motor with some electronics cleaner, and it straightened out the problem. But before that, he ended up removing the PCB board. So he unsoldered the positive and negative connectors, removed the PCB board out, and then resoldered the connectors back into place. And apparently he got a ton of speed out of this unit. So our thought is that this is either a voltage regulator, a limiter of some sort that controls the amount. You'd think normally the ESC would control the amount of electricity, the voltage and everything pushing out to the motor, but by removing that PCB board off of there, he says that it's actually increased the speed of his unit drastically. So we're going to test this mod out today. I'm going to remove the motor, I'm going to unsolder this, remove the PCB board, solder it back together, and then we're going to take it for a little test spin. So let's go ahead and jump in, and this should be fairly quick, hopefully. So let's see what happens. So I'm going to start by removing the 4 bolts to the actual motor housing here. We'll do that real quick. So in addition to removing the 4 bolts from the motor housing, you will need to remove the rear gear pinion spur cover, which consists of the 3 bolts right here. I'll go ahead and do that real quick. Alright, so I've got the bolts loosened. I'm going to remove the rear housing here for the rear gear pinion and spur gear cover, and then pull the motor out right here just like that. And so now the point that we're working on is that I'm going to remove, let me zoom in here for you, I'm going to desolder the positive and negative connectors off of here. I'm going to remove the green PCB board and then resolder these 2 connectors back into place. So if you do this, just make sure you might take a little Sharpie and mark black and red, which I'll go ahead and do here real quick. I'm going to take a black Sharpie and mark this side with a little black, just so I know that that's the negative side. And then take a red Sharpie and mark the other side with a little red, like that, just so I know. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and jump ahead and desolder these 2 points, and then I'll be back with you guys here in just a second. Alright, so there I have the red positive side disconnected, and I'm going to do the negative real quick. Alright, so now I have the positive and the negative connectors desoldered from the back of this motor, and you can see right there. So you need to desolder these 2 points and then slowly pry the PCB, the green PCB board off of this as you're heating it up. So we'll go ahead and do that real quick. I'm just going to grab something here to kind of hold on to the motor to keep it upright while I'm desoldering this. Like that right there. And then just come in with some soldering braid, and you'll want to remove any of the excess solder because these prongs are bent over onto the PCB board. So I'm just going to come in with some soldering braid and suck up the extra solder so I can clear that stuff off of the board there. just work your way along with the braid and suck up all the extra solder there. Alright, so once you have enough solder kind of sucked up out of the way, just take a little wedge here and stick it up under there and heat it up. And then from there, you'll be able to pry that connector up and out of the way a little bit there, like so. Now I'm going to set my soldering iron aside and I'm going to go ahead and finish bending these prongs up and out of the way. I'm just going to use a little small needle nose pliers here. Bend that prong up, bend that one up. Alright, so once you get to this point, you should be able to just wedge that PCB board kind of off and out of the way there. Work your way around it. Bonsai, there it goes. Okay, so the motor's basically going to fit back down into here like this, and I'm just going to solder these points back to the motor. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. Alright, so I have my 2 points soldered back into place, as you can see here. Now, it is a key element to make sure that your solder does not go down and touch the outer metal housing of this unit, because you will short it out if you do that. And as another suggestion, what I would do is use a small piece of electrical tape and place it underneath and then bend this point back in. That way it has a little bit of protection. And then I'm going to place a piece underneath this connector on this side. Like that. And then I'm going to place another piece under the other side. Like that. And then just kind of bring it up around, as you can see right there. So at this point I'm going to bend the positive connector back down, bend the negative connector back down, and now that I have those prongs bent over, I'm going to place a small piece of electrical tape on the outside of this unit, just to give a little extra piece of protection there, insulation if you will. More so on that positive side, like that. And then come around the outside of this negative connector here as well and place a piece. And as you can see now, it's fairly isolated from being able to touch the outer housing there. So with that being said and done, I'm going to go ahead and install the motor back into the unit here. Zoom out for that and get everything put back together, and we'll see how this runs. Alright, so I've got the 4 bolts for the motor back in. I've got the rear spur and pinion gear cover back into place. So I'm going to go ahead and slap a battery in here, pop the cover on it, and let's take it for a test spin. Alright guys, so as you saw for yourself, this unit is definitely faster. Is it faster than the stock Dune Thunder 12891 from HBX? Absolutely. Just by simply removing this little chip here off of the end of the motor. Now I did notice one thing is that the braking power wasn't what it normally is, so that could be that this chip controls that. So when I was driving it forward and I'd spin it around, it would roll backwards as opposed to just stopping more immediate. So that could be one thing that this controls possibly as far as that goes. But it is definitely faster than the stock 12891 from Dune Thunder or HBX. And is it faster than the brushless modification? Absolutely not. It is not faster, but that's what you're paying for in that scenario. I do notice that the ESC was a lot cooler. The motor still, the heat sink on the motor was still hot, just as it normally would be. The ESC wasn't quite as hot. I'm not sure what the comparison is to that, but is it worth doing this modification? Yes, but also understand that you do it at your own risk in those regards. But that's it. And also for Scott H in New York, thanks for the input on this, and look forward to collaborating with you more in the future on these projects. So anyway, hope this video helped you guys out. Thanks for watching Frank's Tech Help. Peace.
Me alone just for a ride, but I never thought that we would kiss.